So as requested, here is part one of the lesson on the driver's manual. Hopefully, after we do this, everybody will pass their permit test, which is what I'm hoping for. The way we're going to work this lesson is that we are going to be working on our reading skills. Like I said, there's a lot of things in life that require nonfiction reading, and the driver's manual is one of them. It is a denser manual, which means it's large and it has a lot of information. It doesn't have any fluff in it. So, with that being said, we are going to do it in chunks to make sure that everybody understands it as best as possible. When I ask you to read a passage silently in this PowerPoint or in this Zaption video, please hit the pause button until you have finished reading it because I will not sit here. I don't want to make everybody sit in silence for an undetermined amount of time. Please make sure to read the passage until you understand it thoroughly. So, red lights. You will read this passage to yourself. Be sure to focus on exceptions to a red light. If you need to, well, please hit pause at this point until you have finished reading, then hit play to continue. On this, we will have a nonfiction reading question on red lights. So be sure to think about who always has the right of way in this following passage. What that means is who is allowed to go first. I will read this one out loud. A green arrow means you may turn the way the arrow points. When you turn during the green arrow phase, your turn is protected because oncoming traffic is stopped by a red light. If the green arrow turns into a green light, you may still turn in that direction, but first yield to pedestrians and oncoming traffic. We will now have a question on who has the right of way on a green arrow. What I want you to do in this passage is read it silently, and then you are going to answer two following questions. Please again hit pause on this slide. That way you can thoroughly read this passage. We are going to do two questions on the memory from lane signs. Try to answer the questions as best as possible. Because you just read a large passage yourself, I will read this passage out loud. Be sure to pay attention to when a car can go. Some highway entrance ramps have traffic signals at the end of the ramp that alternate between steady green and steady red. Ramp metering signals are used to control the flow of traffic onto very congested highways and usually operate during peak rush hours. You must wait for the green signal before you can enter the highway. On single lane ramps, only one car may enter the highway each time the light turns green. For multi-lane on-ramps, there will be a ramp meter for each lane. The green light does not protect your entrance onto the highway. You must still look for a safe gap in traffic to enter the highway. I am now going to ask you an opinion question on the next page on ramp metering. I again am going to ask you to read this passage silently. Afterwards, we will have a question regarding a four-way stop sign. Hit pause now in the video to read this passage yourself. Here is your question on a four-way stop sign. The stop sign is the only octagon-shaped or eight-sided sign you will see on a highway. At an intersection with a stop sign, you must stop completely, check for pedestrians, and cross traffic to clear the intersection before you can go again. Slowing down without coming to a full stop is illegal. When you see a crosswalk or a stop line, white top bar, stop before the front of your vehicle reaches the first painted line. If you cannot see traffic, yield to any pedestrians and then carefully pull forward past the line until you can see clearly. Check for traffic and pedestrians and then go ahead when the intersection is clear. The sign to the left, the accept right turn, is also used in conjunction with stop signs. This sign allows motorists to make a right turn without stopping. On the following page, you will have a question regarding a stop sign. Read the following passage to yourself and then answer the following questions. Please be sure to hit pause at this point in the video to read the passage yourself. Now you will have a question on warning signs. This passage is larger regarding railroad crossing signals. We will read it together and then have a question. Dividers are alerted when approaching a railroad crossing by the railroad crossing sign. Railroad crossings should be approached with caution at all times. You should always look both ways and listen for any approaching trains or signals before proceeding across the railroad tracks. You are required to stop at all railroad crossings when there is a signal of an approaching train. These signals include flashing red lights, a lowered crossing gate, a flagger signaling, or a train's audible signal of warning. Do not move forward or attempt to go around any gate or ignore any signal of an approaching train. If there are no signals at the railroad crossing, you should slow down and prepare to stop. If you see or hear a train approaching, proceed with caution only after the signals are completed, and then only when there is evidence no trains are approaching the crossing. You should stop if a train is approaching and has sounded its audible signal or is plainly visible and in hazardous proximity to the crossing. Do not stop your vehicle on a railroad track, regardless of whether a train appears to be coming. If traffic is backed up because of a traffic signal, stop sign, or for any other reason, make sure you stop your vehicle in a location where it will be entirely clear of any railroad tracks. We are not going to read that last sentence. On the following page, we will have a question. Now that you have completed this last question, come to class and let's have a discussion regarding what we have just learned.